Welcome to Happy in 15. Today we're going to talk about culture of experience management. And we are going to hear from our customer, BioMerieux, where Dominique Raphanel is going to tell their story, how they got their journey started and where they are today. I hope you enjoy the show. So how did you start? Was it first like just used by few people in the IT and then kind of taken on slowly by others, or how have you kind of introduced the tool to people?
Yes, at the beginning, I have to say I was more or less the only one. Then my counterpart starting using it. So I started to talk about it all the time, making sure that it was becoming visible. So in the weekly meetings with my peers, starting to talk to it with the vendors, making it obvious that it was there, making it always very visible, mentioning as well, reminding that the CIO was visiting the metrics, and that user experience was a concern, and
So what happened when he started to, or the CIO started to kind of look at the metrics? Was there any questions like, why is this now going down or up, or?
Yes, at the very beginning, I think that soon after I gave him the access right, he questioned the data. And so it makes it very visible that we need to be on top of it. We need to understand what's going on, but it's for the benefit of our users. We do have that focus. And it really helps us as well to figure out small improvement, continuous improvement plan, and it's also continuous improvement. It's very slow to happen. You cannot expect it to happen overnight. It's a bit like a jar in which you put big stones, then smaller ones and gravels, and to fill in the gaps, you're going to pour some sand. And sand it's what's going to, you don't see it, one grain of sand, it's tiny, but one after the other, at the end of the day, that is what is going to make it stronger.
Yeah, that's true. Experience kind of, it's the whole thing. It's not these individual tools here and there. It's actually how you bring everything together and how they work together for people to do their work.
Yes, and we have been communicating a lot. First to the user. We were lucky enough to be able to launch Happy Signals before the first lockdown, and we had it on the live screen, on the landing page of our intranet, on flyers, on post in Yammer, emails through specific channels. So we started to talk a lot about it, and then we revamped as well the ServiceNow notification to make it look a bit nicer and more fancy and inviting. So that was one of the ways to tackle the one of those challenges.
Yeah. And talking about the communication, so I remember that you also had an example of your team's rollout using different kind of tools and ways to communicate about how to use things. And
and that is true that the way that in a company, because the company has been there for is family owned first and has been there now for over 60 years. Some people are there for a long time. It means that some of our users, the user will go from baby boomers to Gen X, millennials or Z. And you cannot communicate to all of them in the same way. And therefore, you can see that, for example, last year for the Teams rollout, it happened just before the lockdown, and we were lucky enough to have it there. And people gradually started to use it, but some people were lost, and we have a lot of resistance to using it. Therefore, we used webinars, tips and tricks, and increasing webinars to explain point by point not what were the benefits, but how to do one thing, how to do another things, so that the adoption increase, and we can see the number of tickets as well reducing, and the satisfaction increasing for that particular product.
Yeah, that's good. And you're talking a little bit about sharing the data. So you gradually started to share. So why do you think it's important to share the experience data with everybody, all the IT people, your partners, your vendors?
The reason why it's important, because if you want people to adopt it, you have to make it visible. You have to make it there, present. Yeah. And it's not about finger pointing. It's just about sharing information, creating awareness, and hoping that eventually the penny will drop. And it's dropping, sorry, but it is dropping. Yeah. And that's what I thought was the best approach in our environment as well.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess it's about when you just expose it and don't put it's just this is what the data says, and it's not somebody's opinion, then it's and it's real time from the tools, so everybody can start to trust it. And I think we have talked about it a lot with Sami, that just sharing it with everybody starts to create this trust between different departments, different people.
And it's just very factual, and there are plenty of opportunities to see when you go into the data, to see that, for example, I highlighted recently that a drop, an increase in last time, a drop in satisfaction was actually taking place at the same time of a launch. And we knew that for that launch, we could have done maybe the communication a bit better. So it's a perfect example, and it was something which was very visible for the user. So we had the opportunity to amend the communication and to be able to also to do it differently. It was very that was very visible.
Yeah.
Just cannot not understand that the two were linked.
Yeah. All right. Hey, then kind of going forward, do you have any kind of plans to start setting? Because I know that you have now started to measure. You start to understand how the experiences are. You can focus on improving things. What about starting to set targets and maybe moving towards experience level agreements, XLAs, as so many seem to be doing nowadays in the industry?
Yes, and you were right to mention that, because it's really something we are thinking about. And we have started to talk to the vendors informally about it and making them aware of the targets. Also, making it very visible how one is performing and how the other one, we've got two big partners, and how the other one is performing. It's just there in the open. No finger pointing, but it's important to, XLAs are important. We have to be vigilant, though, of the answer rate, and we have a good answer rate. It's nearly 1 out of 2 users using our services who answered. So we can, it's really meaningful.
Yeah.
We just need to make sure and to tie it with the volume to be a trusted data. But it's something that you cannot, you have to go by. If you focus on user experience, you have to go by XLAs as well, because one is tied to the other, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess also this needs to be a conversation with your vendor. So of course, since you have outsourced your IT support, so and have they been, we were just discussing the sharing earlier, so have they already had access to your experience data, your outsourced vendor? You know?
Yes. Very early days, I started with our service desk first, before extending to all the different tracks. And progressively, they understood, that our focus on user experience was very strong, and they have started to introduce that happiness score in the monthly reviews. They've started to do a lot of things with us, just like really looking into the feedback, getting in touch with the user who are with detractors, and make it again, they slowly, it's a slow process. They understand that that's the way we want to go.
Yeah, and I kind of wanted to bring it up because it's about culture. And I think this kind of culture you need to create together with your vendor. It cannot come from the vendor or only come from you, but many times it needs to be initiated by you as the customer. If otherwise, if you're not asking that the user experience or the end user experience is important, then of course, the vendor probably might not be pushing towards it. But we do see this nowadays as well, that many times when you start talking with the vendors, they get it and they understand that it's not just a new thing. It was like 5 years ago, I think.
Exactly, because it's not all about SLAs where, very often you can have that watermelon effect where vendors show it green, then users are not happy, and it's, and it looks like red inside. And there it's factual. Users are saying it's visible. We know to which ticket it's linked. There are comments. We know to which product it's linked as well, or which region. So it's a very practical and pragmatic way to build some action plan. Or it could be linked to some support staff as well. So we know at least we can take actions and we can progress.
Okay, cool.
That's what is important.
Yeah. So maybe in the end, so for your peers listening to this interview, so any kind of suggestions when you start thinking about experience management in practice, like a couple of things that you would maybe want to mention on that?
Two things mostly. The first one is that think users, employees, they are important. It's who they are who make the company. So satisfied employees are employees that will also remain in the company. So certainly, it's an incentive to make sure that they are getting the good service and not losing productivity, and that they have the right tools. And then another one, and it's the last but not the least, it's patience. Because patience for everything, for adopting the tool, you cannot force people to do it. For answering the survey, you cannot force people to do it. And for seeing the improvement, as I said earlier, it doesn't happen overnight. It's really a slow process, and it has to become part of, as you said earlier, the company culture. It's really people need to believe in it. They need to believe in it, and so patience, because it's a long journey, and everything happens progressively.
Yeah, I think all change, it just takes time. It's I had a conversation with Rekit, they have almost like 40,000 employees globally, and they also said that they are very far in their journey, but still it has taken time. But in the other hand, would you say that it's still easy to start? And then
one thing that is important, it's really the managing the change, communicating over and over again, and things you have to repeat them, make it present, always there around you, not forcefully, but it has to be there.
Oh, we're back. Hey, I really hope you enjoyed that one. So Dominique's story of how they did the culture journey at BioMerieux. But hey, please join us again next week. We have another topic, another 15 minutes for you. So please stay safe and stay happy.